The night was cold and the city streets were wet with rain. Neon lights reflected on the puddles, but very few people cared to notice. Everyone walked fast, heads down, rushing to their warm homes. In the middle of the crowd, hidden in the shadows of an alley, sat a girl who did not belong. Her clothes were torn, her face was covered in dirt, and her eyes carried the sadness of someone who had no place in the world. People passed her without a glance, as if she were invisible. But she was not just a homeless girl. She was something more, something no one on earth was ready to believe. She pulled her knees close to her chest, shivering. The rain dripped from the edge of her messy hair and her lips trembled. She had not eaten for days. Her body was weak, but her eyes still glowed faintly under the streetlight. If anyone had looked closely, they would have seen it. A soft golden shine in her pupils, almost like a dying star. But no one looked. Humans were too busy. Humans were too blind. Her heart beat fast each time footsteps came closer. She feared discovery. For weeks she had been running, hiding, surviving in silence. She was not from here. Her ship had fallen from the sky like fire, crashing into a forest far beyond the city. She had crawled out, injured and alone, only to discover that her family, the only ones who could protect her, were gone. She had wandered since then, afraid of both the authorities and the curious. Afraid of what humans would do if they knew what she really was. Tonight she felt weaker than before. She rested her head against the brick wall, her eyelids heavy. She did not care if the rain soaked her. She did not care if the cold bit into her skin. All she wanted was a little warmth, a little kindness, but she had long stopped expecting it. Humans had seen her sitting in the same street for days. Some laughed at her, some looked away, and some threw trash near her feet. No one had offered a hand, until one man stopped. He was not special, at least not in the eyes of the world. He was a tired worker, carrying his bag after a long shift. He could have walked past her, just like everyone else. But something about her caught his attention. Maybe it was her shaking shoulders, maybe it was the hopeless way she sat in the rain. Or maybe, though he could not explain it, it was her eyes. For a second he thought he saw them glow. He rubbed his own eyes, thinking it was a trick of the neon lights. He stood still, torn between walking away and stepping closer. His conscience would not let him leave. Slowly he walked toward her. She noticed and froze. Her heart raced. Her kind had warned her. Never trust strangers, never let humans close. She lowered her face, hoping he would lose interest, but he did not. "Hey," he said gently, his voice tired but soft. "Are you okay?" No answer. She stayed silent, too afraid. He sighed and opened his bag. Inside was a sandwich he had saved for later. Without a second thought, he knelt down and placed it near her. "You should eat something. It's not much, but—" His words faded. He did not expect thanks. He just hoped she would accept it. The smell of food reached her nose and her stomach tightened with hunger. Still she hesitated. Could it be a trap? Could he be testing her? Slowly she lifted her face. Their eyes met. For the first time, someone truly looked at her, not with disgust, not with fear, but with concern. Her thin hand reached out. When her skin touched his fingers, something extraordinary happened. A spark of warmth spread through his hand, almost like a pulse of light. He pulled back in shock, staring at her. Her eyes were glowing now, not faintly but brightly, golden like a sun hidden behind clouds. He froze, unable to speak. She froze too, realizing what she had revealed. For a moment the world stood still. The rain, the city noise, the rushing footsteps of others all faded into silence. He whispered, "What? What are you?" Her lips trembled. She had hidden her truth for so long. But in that moment, sitting in the rain with this human who had shown her kindness, she whispered back in broken English, "I am not from here." His heart pounded. He wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, to tell himself he was dreaming. But deep inside, he knew it was real. This was no ordinary girl. She was something else, something beyond human. And without realizing it, his small act of kindness had just changed everything. The man sat frozen, his hand still tingling from the strange warmth. The rain fell harder, dripping down his face, but he barely noticed. His eyes stayed fixed on the girl who now looked at him with a mixture of fear and sorrow. Her words echoed in his mind, "I am not from here." For a moment he thought about running. Any normal person would. An alien, here on Earth in front of him. It sounded impossible. Something from movies or bedtime stories. And yet he could not deny what he had just seen. Her glowing eyes were no illusion. The energy that rushed through his hand was real. No science he knew could explain it. But what unsettled him most was not her strange power. It was the way she looked at him, like a scared child, not a monster. He saw no anger in her, no threat. Only loneliness. Who are you? He whispered. She hesitated, pulling her thin blanket tighter around her shoulders as if it could protect her. I cannot tell, she said softly, her voice broken. Her words heavy with an accent not from this world. The man leaned closer, lowering his tone so no one else could hear. Please, and I helped you, didn't I? You can trust me. Her eyes flickered with uncertainty. She wanted to trust him, but her heart raced with memories. Memories of humans shouting when they saw her strange eyes, of hands reaching for stones, of fear turning to cruelty. Kindness was rare. Could this man really be different? Finally, she whispered again, her words trembling like the rain around them. I am lost. My home, far, too far I came, not by choice. The man frowned, trying to make sense of her broken speech. Your home? Another place? She nodded slowly, her golden eyes dimming. Another world, his chest tightened. The thought was overwhelming, terrifying even. But strangely, he did not feel the fear he expected. Instead, he felt pity. She was so small, so fragile, and yet she carried the weight of something unimaginable. Your family? He asked carefully. At that, her face changed. Pain flashed in her eyes. She shook her head quickly, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. Gone, ship, broke, fire, crash. Her hands trembled as she spoke, and for a moment, the man imagined it. A burning vessel streaking through the night sky. A child crawling from the wreckage alone in a strange and hostile world. He swallowed hard. He had seen orphans before, he had seen hunger and sadness, but nothing compared to this. This was not just a girl without a home. This was a child without a planet. I'm sorry, he said quietly, his voice heavy. You didn't deserve this. She looked at him, confused. Few had ever spoken to her with kindness. For days she had expected nothing but cruelty. This human's gentleness startled her, almost as much as his touch had earlier. But as the silence stretched, the man began to realize the danger. If others discovered her, what would they do? Governments, scientists, soldiers, none of them would see a child. They would see an experiment, a threat, something to be caged or destroyed. Does anyone else know about you? He asked quickly. She shook her head. No, hide always. If found, they hurt me. Her eyes lowered, and he could tell she spoke from experience. The man's stomach twisted. He imagined the people he saw every day, the suspicious looks, the cruelty shown to the weak. If they had treated her poorly when they thought she was just homeless, what would they do if they knew the truth? A sudden noise broke their moment. A car door slammed nearby, followed by voices. The girl flinched, her whole body tense. She pressed against the wall, eyes darting like a trapped animal. The man placed a hand gently on her shoulder. It's okay. Just stay calm. But inside he was anything but calm. He knew the risk. Already stories had spread of strange lights in the forest weeks ago. People whispered of a crash, of something unnatural. What if the authorities were already looking for her? He took a deep breath. Listen to me, he said firmly. If you stay out here, someone will find you. And if the wrong people find you, they will not be kind. Her lips trembled. Then what I do? He hesitated. He had a simple life, a job that barely paid his bills, and a home that was hardly big enough for himself. Taking her in would be dangerous. It could destroy his life. But could he really leave her here in the rain, hunted and alone? He looked into her glowing eyes once more, and in that moment his decision became clear. You come with me, he whispered. I'll keep you safe. She froze, shocked by his words. No one had ever offered her safety before. For a long second she searched his face, looking for a lie, for a trap. But all she saw was honesty. All she felt was warmth. Slowly she nodded. The man stood, pulling her gently to her feet. She staggered, weak from hunger, but he held her steady. Together, they stepped out of the alley, blending into the crowd. But what neither of them knew was that danger was already close. Somewhere in the city, reports of a strange glowing-eyed child had reached ears that should never have heard them. And while one man chose kindness, others were preparing to hunt. The secret was no longer safe. The girl walked beside the man through the quiet streets, her small steps uncertain, her eyes darting at every passing shadow. The The city was loud, full of honking cars and flashing lights, but to her it was a jungle of dangers. She had learned that humans could be cruel, and trust was a luxury she could not afford. Yet here she was, following this stranger into the unknown. Something inside her told her that he was different. His kindness felt real, and for the first time in weeks she allowed herself to hope. The man's apartment was not impressive. It was small. The paint was peeling on the walls and the furniture was old, but to her it looked like a palace compared to the cold alleys she had been sleeping in. He placed a blanket on the chair for her and handed her a cup of warm tea. She held it carefully, sniffing it before sipping. The warmth spread through her thin body, and her shoulders finally began to relax. He sat across from her, studying her closely. She looked human, at least mostly. If not for her strange eyes, she could have passed for any lost child. But there was something about her movements, the way her head tilted as she studied the room, the way her fingers tapped nervously on the cup, that told him she was different. "Can you tell me more?" he asked gently. "About where you came from?" She lowered her gaze, clutching the cup tighter. Memories filled her mind, sharp and painful. For a moment she thought of staying silent, but something about his voice made her believe he would listen without judgment. Slowly she began to speak. "My world. Very far," she whispered. "Not like here, sky. Not blue, but red, sea. Not water, but light." Her eyes glowed faintly as she spoke, as if the memory itself lit something within her. "We lived in towers, high in the air. My people, we could heal. We could share strength. No war, no hunger." The man leaned forward, fascinated. Her words painted pictures in his mind. Strange skies, glowing seas, a civilization beyond anything humans could imagine. But her voice soon cracked and the light in her eyes dimmed. "Then, they came," she continued, her small hands shaking. "Dark ships, fire, they wanted us, wanted our gift. My people fight, but too strong, too many. My family put me in small ship, said, 'Go, live, hide.'" Tears welled up in her eyes, her broken English struggling to carry the weight of her pain. "I watched. As they burn." The man's chest tightened. He had expected a story, but not this. She was not just lost, she was a survivor, a child of a destroyed world, a refugee from the stars. "What about your ship?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "Crash, fire, forest, I run, alone." Her eyes flickered with fear as she remembered the flames, the sound of trees snapping, the pain of crawling out into a world that did not want her. "I hide, I beg. People see my eyes. They call me demon, monster. They throw stones." Her lips quivered, her voice breaking. "I only wanted to live." The man clenched his fists. Shame washed over him, not for himself, but for his kind. Humans had failed her. They had treated her like trash when all she had needed was help. "I believe you," he said firmly. She looked up, startled. Few had ever spoken those words to her. "You not afraid?" He shook his head. "I should be, maybe. But I'm not. You're just a child who lost everything, and you need someone to stand by you." For a long moment, silence filled the room. The rain outside tapped against the window, but inside, something warmer was growing, a fragile bond, stitched together by trust. But the world outside was not safe. Already whispers spread across the city. Reports of strange sightings near the forest crash site had reached the ears of men in uniforms. Scientists wanted proof, soldiers wanted control, and hunters wanted glory. The girl's face had been described by those who mocked her on the street, and the story of her glowing eyes was too unusual to ignore. Somewhere in a dark office, photographs were being pinned to a board. A file was opened, marked with the words, "Subject of interest." Back in the small apartment, the girl shifted uneasily, as if she could sense the net closing in. "They will come," she said softly. "Always. They come. They want me." The man nodded grimly. "Then we'll be ready." She frowned. "You risk your life." He smiled faintly. "Some risks are worth it." The girl stared at him, trying to understand why he cared so much. Humans had shown her nothing but hate, yet this one man was willing to stand beside her. She felt something stir inside her, a faint memory of her mother's voice, telling her that kindness existed in every world, even if it was rare. As the night grew darker, she curled up on the chair, the blanket around her shoulders. For the first time in weeks, she closed her eyes without fear. But far away, engines started, orders were given, and searchlights turned toward the city. The past she carried was not finished with her. And soon, both she and the man would learn how dangerous kindness could be. The morning came too quickly. The man barely slept, his mind restless with worry. He had let an alien child into his home, a girl who carried secrets that could shake the world. As he made coffee in the dim light of the kitchen, he heard her soft breathing from the chair where she slept. Wrapped in his blanket, she looked almost ordinary, almost human. But he knew better. Her glowing eyes and the warmth of her touch were proof she was something extraordinary. He sipped the bitter coffee, staring at the window. A part of him wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. Already whispers spread through the city of a strange child with golden eyes. He could feel it. Sooner or later, someone would come looking. His fears were not wrong. Across the city, black vans rolled quietly through the streets. Inside sat men in dark uniforms, eyes sharp, weapons ready. They were not ordinary police. They were a special unit, trained to capture the unknown. The photographs of the girl had reached them. The description of her glowing eyes had confirmed everything. Their orders were clear: find her. Bring her in. Alive if possible. Back in the small apartment, the girl woke with a start. Her heart pounded as if something had disturbed her dreams. She looked at the man, her golden eyes wide. They come, she whispered. He frowned. How do you know? Her voice trembled. I feel them close. The man's stomach dropped. He rushed to the window and pulled back the curtain just enough to peek outside. His blood ran cold. Parked across the street was a dark van, its windows tinted, its engine humming softly. Get up, he said quickly. We have to leave now. The girl obeyed, fear tightening her small body. She clutched his sleeve as he grabbed his bag and threw on a jacket. They slipped out the back door, down a narrow staircase that smelled of rust and dust. But the hunters were fast. The moment the man and the girl reached the alley, a spotlight cut through the foggy morning air. A voice boomed from a megaphone. Stay where you are. The girl froze, trembling. The man pulled her hand. Run! They sprinted through the maze of alleys, footsteps echoing behind them. The van screeched as they turned corners, soldiers pouring out with boots and rifles. The sound of radios crackled in the air. Target spotted. Moving west. Don't lose them. The man's lungs burned as he ran, but he refused to slow down. He knew that if they were caught, she would never see freedom again. He risked a glance behind him, black uniforms closing in, eyes locked on their prey. The girl stumbled, nearly falling, but the man lifted her up, pushing her forward. Her eyes glowed faintly, fear making them brighter. Some of the soldiers faltered at the sight, whispering nervously, but their orders drove them on. They burst into a crowded street. People turned, startled, as the girl clung to the man's arm. Shouts rang out, "There she is!" The crowd scattered in panic, screams filling the air as soldiers raised their weapons. The man's heart pounded. He ducked into another alley, weaving between trash bins and broken fences. But the soldiers were relentless. They were trained for this, trained to corner their target until there was no escape. At the edge of the city, the man pulled the girl into an abandoned warehouse. His chest heaved as he pressed her against the wall. Stay quiet, he whispered. The girl nodded, though her whole body shook. She closed her eyes, focusing, listening. Her kind had senses beyond humans, and she could feel the soldiers' movements like ripples in the air. They surround us, she whispered. The man cursed under his breath. There was no way out. The heavy sound of boots echoed closer. Radios buzzed. Orders were shouted. The girl's eyes flickered with fear and guilt. She turned to the man, her voice breaking. I should go. If I go, they leave you. He shook his head firmly. No, I won't let them take you. Tears slid down her cheeks. Why risk? Why help me? He looked at her, and for the first time he gave her the truth. Because no one else will. Because you don't deserve to be hunted. Before she could answer, the warehouse doors slammed open. Soldiers stormed in, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The girl gasped, backing away. The man stepped in front of her, raising his arms. Don't shoot, he shouted. She's just a child. But the soldiers ignored his plea. They closed in, their weapons trained on her glowing eyes. The girl's breathing quickened. She pressed her hands together as if gathering something unseen. Her eyes flared brighter, golden light spilling into the room. The soldiers faltered, startled by the sudden glow. The man turned to her, eyes wide. What are you doing? Her voice was soft, trembling but firm. Protecting you. The light grew, spreading like fire across the walls. The soldiers shouted, shielding their faces. Radios crackled with panic. And in that moment, the hunters realized the truth. This was no ordinary child. This was something far greater, and she was done hiding. The warehouse shook with the force of her light. Golden rays spilled out through the cracks in the walls, painting the night sky with an unnatural glow. The soldiers stumbled backward, their radios screaming with frantic voices. Subject has manifested energy. Contain immediately. The man shielded his face, his heart racing. He had never seen anything like it. The girl's eyes blazed like two suns, her small hands glowing as if she held a star inside her chest. Yet even in her power, her face showed only fear. She did not want to fight, but she had no choice. The soldiers regrouped quickly. They were trained for chaos. Shields were raised, weapons aimed. "Move in! Secure the target!" One of them barked. The girl gasped, her strength flickering. She had held the light too long. Her knees weakened, and she clutched the man's arm. "I cannot hold," she whispered. He caught her before she fell. His jaw tightened. She was just a child, scared, exhausted, alone. He turned to the soldiers, anger flooding his voice. "Stop this."
"She's not your enemy."
But mercy had no place in their mission. Two soldiers rushed forward, seizing the man by his arms. He fought back, kicking, twisting, but they were stronger, dragging him away from her. "Run!" he shouted to the girl. "Don't let them take you!" Her golden eyes widened in horror. "No!" The soldiers pinned him against the wall, forcing his head down. One pressed a rifle barrel to his back. The girl trembled, torn between choices. She could flee into the night, vanish before they closed in. It was what survival demanded. It was what her family would have wanted. But if she ran now, he would die because of her. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she stepped forward. Her small voice shook the air. "Let him go." The soldiers froze for a moment, surprised she spoke. Then the leader sneered. "You want him alive? Then surrender, or he dies first." The man struggled, his voice hoarse. "Don't do it. Don't give yourself up for me." But she ignored him. Her glowing eyes locked on the leader. Slowly she raised her hands, showing she had no weapon. "Take me," she whispered. But heard him. "And I fight." Her voice was not loud, yet it carried a weight that silenced the room. The leader studied her, then motioned for his men to pull the man back. They shoved him to the ground, keeping weapons trained on both. The girl hurried to his side, kneeling beside him. She touched his bruised arm, and in an instant the pain faded. His eyes widened as warmth spread through him, knitting the injury as if it had never happened. Gasps echoed among the soldiers. Even they could not deny what they had witnessed. The leader's expression hardened. "She heals. That's why they want her." The man pushed himself up, glaring at them. "She's a child. She's lost everything, and you're treating her like an object." The leader didn't answer. His radio crackled. "Extraction team in position. Bring them both." The girl's heart sank. She knew what this meant. If they took her, she would never be free again. They would lock her away, cut her open, use her gift until there was nothing left of her. And the man, he would not be spared either. His kindness had tied him to her fate. She turned to him, her golden eyes shimmering with sadness. "You saved me. Now, I save you." Before he could respond, she stood tall, her hands glowing brighter. The soldiers raised their rifles, ready to fire. "Don't!" the man cried out, but she ignored the weapons. She ignored her fear. For the first time, she let her power surge freely, golden light exploding outward in waves. The soldiers staggered, blinded. Their radios burst with static, equipment frying in sparks. The man shielded his face as the brilliance consumed the room. He felt her small hand press against his chest, and then a surge of warmth, stronger than before, flooding through him. It was as if she was giving him something: strength, protection, maybe even a piece of herself. "Live," she whispered. The light collapsed inward, and she crumpled to the ground. The soldiers blinked through the fading glow, stunned to see the child lying motionless on the floor. The man rushed to her side, shaking her gently. Now. Stay with me." Her eyes flickered open, dim but still golden. She smiled faintly. Safe. Now, before the soldiers could recover, sirens wailed outside. Civilians had seen the unnatural light, and the city was stirring. More eyes would soon be on this place. The leader cursed, motioning for retreat. "Grab the girl. We'll finish this later." But as they moved forward, the man stood in their way, fury burning in his chest. He spread his arms wide, protecting her with his own body. "You'll have to go through me first." The soldiers hesitated. The girl lay unconscious, her glow dimmed, but her sacrifice had already stunned them. She had not used her gift to kill or destroy. She had used it to heal, to protect, and in that moment even hardened soldiers felt doubt. The warehouse was silent except for the echo of distant sirens. Dust floated in the air, glittering faintly from the golden light that had only moments ago filled the space. The soldiers stood frozen, weapons still raised but their hands trembling. They had seen something no training could prepare them for. This girl, this alien child, had power unlike anything on Earth. And yet, instead of striking them down, she had collapsed from using her strength to protect a single human man. The man knelt beside her, his voice breaking as he whispered her name, though she had never told him one. "Stay with me, please." He brushed wet hair from her face, feeling her pulse flutter weakly beneath his fingertips. Her glow had faded to a dim shimmer like the last breath of a candle. The leader of the soldiers barked an order. "Take her, now!" 2 men stepped forward, but the man rose quickly, placing himself between them and the girl. His eyes burned with desperation. "You don't understand. She's not dangerous, she's just a child." The soldiers hesitated. Doubt rippled through their ranks. They had seen her heal, not harm. Still, orders were orders, and the leader's voice cut through their hesitation like a blade. "She is not human. Do your job." But before they could move again, a groan echoed from the far side of the room. One of the soldiers who had been knocked back by the light struggled to his feet. His arm bent at an unnatural angle, bone clearly broken, his face twisted in pain. He fell to his knees, gasping. The girl stirred, hearing the sound. Weak as she was, she lifted her head, golden eyes flickering open. She saw the injured soldier, saw the pain written across his face. Slowly, trembling, she pushed herself onto her hands. The man tried to stop her. "No, you need to rest." But she shook her head. Her gaze was steady now, filled not with fear but with resolve. Crawling across the floor, she reached the wounded soldier. He flinched, terrified of her touch but too weak to move away. She placed her small glowing hand against his broken arm. A hush fell over the room. The soldier gasped as warmth spread through his body. The twisted bone shifted beneath the skin, straightening. The swelling faded, the pain dissolved. Within moments, his arm was whole again, as if it had never been broken. The room erupted in stunned whispers. Soldiers exchanged wide-eyed looks. The healed man stared at his arm in disbelief, then at the girl, his lips trembling. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you help me?" Her voice was faint but clear. "Because pain is pain, yours, mine, the same." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. In that moment, the soldiers did not see a monster. They saw compassion, something no weapon could explain, something no order could erase. The man's throat tightened as he watched her. Even after all she had suffered, losing her world, her family being hunted and hated, she still chose kindness. That single act spoke louder than any words he could ever say. The leader's face twisted with frustration. He saw his men faltering, their resolve slipping. "Don't be fooled," he snapped. "This is manipulation. She's dangerous." But doubt had already taken root. One of the younger soldiers shook his head. "Sir, she healed him. She didn't attack. She could have killed us back there, but she didn't." Another voice joined. "She saved him. That's not the act of a weapon." The leader growled, gripping his radio. "Extraction team, move in now." Before reinforcements could arrive, the girl turned to the man. Her golden eyes glowed brighter, not with fear but with a fragile hope. "They see now," she whispered. "Not all, but some." The injured soldier she healed rose slowly to his feet. He looked at his comrades, then at the leader. "Sir, if we take her by force after this, people will never forgive us. The world will know." The leader glared at him, but for the first time he hesitated. Sirens outside grew louder. More civilians were gathering. Phones were recording. If they dragged her away now, there would be witnesses who had seen her kindness. The girl swayed, exhaustion pulling at her, but she still managed to smile faintly. "One act enough. It begins." The man felt his chest ache with emotion. He understood now what she meant. Her people's gift was not just healing wounds of the body. It was healing hearts, breaking fear with compassion. She had given them a glimpse of something greater, something beyond their narrow world. But he also knew this moment was fragile. For every soldier whose heart softened, there were others who still saw her as a threat. For every civilian who recorded her miracle, there would be leaders who demanded her capture. He leaned close, whispering urgently. We need to leave before reinforcements arrive. You've shown them who you are. Now we have to survive long enough for the truth to spread. She nodded weakly, clutching his sleeve. And so, while confusion rippled through the soldiers and their leader barked conflicting orders, the man guided her toward a side exit. Her steps were slow, each one heavy, but the glow of her eyes lit the path ahead. Behind them, one soldier lowered his weapon completely. Another followed. The man, healed by her touch, pressed a hand over his chest, conflicted, his heart torn between duty and the memory of her compassion. For the first time, the hunters were unsure, and in that uncertainty, hope was born. The world outside the warehouse had already changed. What began as a silent street now buzzed with life. Sirens wailed, people shouted, and dozens of glowing phone screens pointed at the building like stars in the night. Rumors had spread quickly. An explosion of golden light, soldiers chasing a child, something unnatural moving in the dark. Curious eyes gathered, recording, whispering, waiting. When the man and the girl stepped out the side door, the crowd gasped. She looked fragile, leaning on his arm, her glow dim but still visible beneath the shadow of her hair. For a brief moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Someone whispered, "That's her." Another voice followed, louder, trembling with awe. "Her eyes, they shine." The crowd pressed closer, but not in anger, not with stones or curses. Their faces showed confusion, fear, and something else, wonder. Then from the doorway behind them, soldiers appeared. Weapons raised, radios crackling with urgent orders. The crowd screamed, scattering in panic. Mothers clutched children, men pulled loved ones away. Phones kept recording, but no one wanted to be caught between rifles and the unknown. The girl stopped, her golden eyes looking at the soldiers. She could feel their intent. She knew they were torn, some afraid, some unwilling, some trapped by duty. Her chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. She could not run anymore. She could not hide. The man pulled her gently. "We have to keep moving." But she shook her head. "No, if I run, fear grows. If I stop, maybe it ends." Before he could protest, she stepped forward, her small frame illuminated by the streetlights. Soldiers shouted warnings, but she raised her hand slowly, showing she held nothing. Her glow brightened, not like fire, but like a sunrise, soft, warm, undeniable. The man's heart pounded as he realized what she was doing. She wasn't just showing herself to soldiers. She was showing herself to the entire world. Cameras flashed. Live streams carried her image across the globe. People far beyond this street now watched a child who was not of Earth. A soldier stumbled forward, panic in his eyes. His finger twitched against the trigger. The man tensed, ready to throw himself in front of her. But before the weapon fired, the girl moved. She stepped closer to the soldier, ignoring the danger, and reached out with her hand. The man shouted, "No!" But the soldier froze, trembling. He had expected attack. Instead, her hand touched his arm gently, and warmth spread through him. His body, stiff with fear, relaxed. His breath steadied. His eyes widened, disbelief melting into something else. Peace. The cameras caught everything. The crowd fell silent again. The girl's voice carried through the air, quiet but clear. "Fear makes you blind. Kindness opens eyes." Her words were simple, broken, but they struck deeper than any weapon. The man watched as one by one, soldiers lowered their rifles. The leader barked orders, furious, but his men hesitated. Some exchanged glances, some shook their heads. And the soldier she touched dropped his weapon completely, falling to his knees in shock, whispering, "She's not a threat. She's not." The leader's face turned red with rage. He reached for his radio, shouting for backup, for helicopters, for reinforcements. But it was too late. The crowd, once silent, now found its voice. People shouted from the edges of the street, "She healed him. She's just a child. Stop pointing guns at her." Phones streamed live to millions. Around the world, screens lit up with her image. News anchors stammered. Governments scrambled. And ordinary people sat in their homes, staring at a child whose golden eyes shone with something more powerful than fear, compassion. The man felt his chest swell with both pride and fear. He knew this moment was bigger than him, bigger than her. Humanity had been given a choice, to see her as a threat or as a miracle. The girl swayed, exhausted, but she stood tall. Her glow dimmed to a gentle light, enough for the cameras to see, enough for the world to remember. She turned to the man, whispering, "Now, they know." He nodded, his throat tight with emotion. Yes, they know. Behind them, the leader realized the battle was lost, not with guns, but with perception. Every bullet fired now would not silence her story. It would amplify it. The cameras had already written her place in history. The soldiers slowly withdrew, their faces uncertain, their hearts shaken. The crowd surged forward, not with hate, but with awe. Some cried, some prayed, some simply stared as if seeing hope for the first time. The man placed a protective arm around her. "Come on. We need to get you somewhere safe." But she only smiled faintly. "Safe is not for me. Safe is for all." Her words lingered in the air like a prophecy. That night, the world changed. On every news channel, on every screen, her face appeared. A homeless alien girl who had healed a soldier instead of harming him, who had shown compassion instead of anger. Some leaders called her a danger. Others called her a sign. But the people saw her for what she truly was, not a weapon, not a monster, but a reminder that one act of kindness could stun even the darkest hearts. And as the golden glow of her eyes faded into the night, humanity stood at the edge of something new, unsure, divided, but no longer blind.